Whew. Hey, hello, y'all. As you make your way into the live, please let me know if you can hear me. Kindly let me know if I am heard because we're having some technical difficulties right now. So as you make your way in, please let me know. Let me know if you can hear me. I will be coming on camera soon. Also, let me know if you can see me as well. So please let me know as you make your way in. Do not hesitate to let your girl know what's up with the audio. Once again, we're here to talk about flight attendant pay, okay? I'm here to talk about flight attendant pay. We can never talk too much about the money, okay? The money is very, very important. And I know this is impromptu, so please forgive me. Please forgive me. I've been trying to come on live for a while now, and I did decide to set the time finally at 4 p.m., hoping to get the technical aspect of everything together before I jump in. But it's still a struggle out here, okay? But I made it anyway. So currently I am using my iPhone that's how you can see me. I have a camera and everything, but today it is refusing to cooperate with me right now. So I am using my iPhone, and just let me know if I'm seen, if I'm heard. That way we can get into the topic for today. You all will not imagine. It's been a struggle getting here, okay? It's when the system decide to go against you, it is not easy, okay? So please let me know if you can hear me in the comment section here, in the chat. So let me know, am I heard? Am I seen? Please let me know. Let me type this in real quickly. Hello, as you make your way into the live, also do say hi to everybody else. Don't stalk us. Hello. It's been a minute, y'all. Your girl went into hiding for a while because we needed a break, okay? We needed a break. But we are here, so please let me know if you can hear me. Okay, I'm heard. Okay, sound is good. All right, so tonight, whatever time it is in your time zone, I'm here to talk about money. If you're new to this channel, once again, my name is Princella. I am a new Seattle-based flight attendant working with a major U.S. airline company. And if you are not a regular here, I typically share my experience with you all from starting the journey to where I am right now. And I do share content about the pay, the job itself, what to expect, my schedule reaction video if you're trying to apply. This is a one-stop shop channel, okay? I give you all the nitty-gritty from start to finish. In summary, if you're a regular here, I appreciate you as always supporting your girl, so I do appreciate you. So let's get into today. So today's video is definitely very impromptu, and once again, like I shared in the beginning of the live, I'm using my camera, my iPhone right now to project me or for you to see me, so it might lag or delay a bit compared to the quality that I've been having with my actual camera because the setup was not cooperating with me today, okay? So if you do come in, say hi in the chats. If you do have any questions, please drop it as well. And beyond that, the other thing that I wanted to share was the fact that I know I've been away for a minute. I have been posting videos for my trip to Accra, but I have been working. I've been out there. It's just that I've been on the down low, essentially, low key. But your girl is out. I'm still trying to figure out the sort of content that I do want to start creating, like putting together like an actual plan. So then moving forward, I can batch record content and then start giving them out. I also want to get to the point where I can put out more content than I currently do, because currently I'm aiming for just one a week. So I do want to do more lives and interactive sections as well where you can ask me questions. So that being said, if you do find the live, on your timeline, go ahead and jump in and ask me any question that you do have currently about flight attendant or whatever it is. Honestly, if you catch me, ask me, okay? So yes, that being said, today, as the thumbnail and the title of the live indicates, I will be talking about flight attendant pay. And the reason why I'm talking about this, okay, hey Vernell, Vernell is a regular. Like, he shows up. He shows up when he's supposed to, okay? But hi, you can hear me and see me perfect. So as I was saying, Vernell, at the beginning of the live, I'm using my phone's camera right now because my actual camera is doing whatever it needs to do. So we're just moving on. I've been trying to come on this live for a while now, but I'm here. All right, so like I said, I will be talking about flight attendant pay. And the reason why I'm talking about flight attendant pay again, it's because I keep getting questions about it. And I know and I understand, because your money is very important and you do not want anything standing in between you and your money. Nobody wants that. We're not about that life right now, okay? So I do get it and I understand. That's why I'm here to talk about flight attendant pay again. So that's the reason why. And I've been getting a lot of questions about the earning potential, how much you can make as a new hire. Can you make this amount? Can you make that amount? And I specifically stated $70,000 a year because I've had several people inbox me asking me about it. So that's the reason why I do want to talk about it, because I know that the money is important, especially because when you go for training, you're not getting paid your actual pay, right? You're not getting that flight attendant pay. Some maybe don't pay you at all. So it's important to know. And just because you're starting a new job does not mean that your life is at a standstill. Your bills don't wait for you. Your expenses don't wait for you. So you have to make sure that once you hit the ground running, if you're going to make a good amount of money. And I do have a playlist where I talk about flight attendant pay, a video where I talk about flight attendant pay, and another video where I talk about my pay for a specific month, working a certain number of days and getting a certain number of days off as well. But today's live will focus more on essentially the pay again, but I'm just going to be talking about a few things. So if you haven't checked out that playlist, go ahead and check it out. It gives you a full breakdown of what to expect working with the airline company that I work for as a new flight attendant. So let's jump right into it. Also, as you make your way into the live, go ahead and ask any questions that you have. Drop it in the chat real quickly and I'll respond to it. My screen is on this side, so if you see me looking this way, that's the reason why. But I do appreciate your patience with me and everything. Like, we're still trying to figure things out. Okay, so first of all, flight attendant pay. With the airline company that I work for, we're paid every 2 weeks. And I noticed I did not mention this in my pay videos. The videos that I spoke about our pay, for whatever reason I never mentioned it. So we're not salaried, we're paid hourly, and then also we're paid every 2 weeks. So essentially, whatever amount of hours that you do work for 2 weeks, that's what you get paid for. There are additional pay and other things, but that's just the basic of it all. That's just the straight to the point of it all. Hey, Abby. Hey, y'all, Abigail is my sister, y'all. She's my sister. You can hear and see me. Perfect. Okay, so we are paid every 2 weeks. I have heard that some people do get paid monthly, but for us, we're paid every 2 weeks. And in today's video, I will be talking about how often we get paid, which I already mentioned, and then also how to maximize your earning potential, essentially. And to all of you that are constantly asking, like, how to make more money, how can you make more money? I know most people out there will share that, hey, you can make more money by picking up extra trips or extra hours or whatever. But the reality of it all is that several factors come into play with regards to your ability to earn more. So the first thing is that we are not scheduled like 160 hours like the typical 9-to-5 job would schedule you. No, I believe according to the FAA, correct me if I'm wrong, and if you know this, please drop it in the chat. Trust me, I'm learning as well. But I was trying to look for it before this live, but I couldn't find it. But I think I have heard somewhere, or someone, or a flight attendant at some point told me that the FAA requires the airline, the maximum hours that is expected that we should be scheduled for by an airline, it's 90 hours. Correct me if I'm wrong though. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe is 90 hours. And with my airline, the schedule value every month changes because it depends on the amount of flying they're projecting we're going to have. So last month or this month, for example, our schedule value was at 80 hours, plus or minus 7 hours, which means the maximum you can be scheduled for is 87 hours and the minimum you can be scheduled for is 73 hours. That's what that means. So even though the FAA requires the airline to schedule us up to 90 hours, the schedule value might not be up to 90 hours due to business needs and demand. So that's the first thing to take note. Secondly, even though the requirement is 90 hours, and I'm saying once again, if you know the correct hours, please let me know, but I believe it's 90 hours. That's what the FAA requires. I think is it 90 or 120? I'm not sure. It's 90 or 120. I'm not sure yet. I couldn't get the info, but if you know, drop in the comment section below. But legally, there is like a maximum amount that the airline can schedule us for, which is established by the FAA, period, regardless of what the number is. However, our airline allows us to work more hours than they schedule us for. That's why people would say that, hey, if you want to make more money, you can pick up more trips. You can pick up trips from other people. You can pick from out of base and all that good stuff, which is sweet and all. So that's very true. But in terms of how much you can actually earn hourly, it's hard to get a fixed number. So I did have a lot of people asking me like, hey, can I make 60,000? Can I make 70,000 a year as a new hire? The reason why it's tricky when it comes to me answering this question, and the reason why I don't want to say it's not possible or it is possible outright or straightforward, is because there's several factors counting on, like, impacting your ability to do so. So let's say you're a new flight attendant and you start training essentially January 1st, 2024, right? This is a scenario. You're starting training January 1st, 2024. Remember, training is now 7 weeks. So for 7 weeks, which is about a month and a half, almost 2 months. It's about 1 month and 3 weeks, right? That's 7 weeks. So while you're in training for almost 2 months, you are not getting paid your flight pay. Your flight pay for a new hire with my airline, for example, is I think $33.81. Yeah, I think that's what it is for a new hire. It's subject to change next year because of expected pay increase or whatever. But that's besides the point. So for the first 2 months of your first year as a flight attendant, going for training January 1st, 2024, you're not earning that $33.81. Your pay for that training period, it's the minimum wage of Atlanta. So right now, or at the time when I went for training, which was 6 months ago, the minimum wage for Atlanta was like $7 and some change. So that's what you're earning per hour during your training period. Because with flight attendant training, you either don't get paid at all, you just get a stipend for food, or whatever, or you don't even get anything at all, but it's not paid. But then my airline pays you the minimum wage of Atlanta. So you're earning that alone for the first 2 months, right? And let's say you're aiming to earn $70,000 a year. So let's do the math real quickly. Once again, as you make your way into the live, don't be shy to say hello to everybody. If you have any questions about flight attendant pay, please feel free to drop it in the comment section below as well. Let me just get the math real quickly and drop your questions in the comment section. I know the live is impromptu. I know you all did not expect me to be here right now, but I am here. I have showed up. So let's just get into it. And I am talking about flight attendant pay, just breaking it down and just providing like realistic scenarios in terms of your earning potential realistically. Okay. But one thing to note is that nothing is impossible. So just keep that in mind. So back to the example that I was citing. So you started your training January 1st, 2024. You go for training for about 2 weeks because training is now seven weeks. So you go for training for about 2 months because training is now 7 weeks, which is a month and 3 weeks. And then you're earning the minimum wage of Atlanta. But then your goal as a new hire, keyword, new hire, is you trying to earn 70,000 for the year. the first year that you start. Okay, so 70,000. So to make $70,000 a year means that you would have to earn about $5,833 a month every single month for 12 months to earn 70,000 a year, which is very doable. However, as a new hire, remember, you're already spending about the first 2 months of your first year earning $7 and whatever the amount is. So that alone sets you back a couple of thousands of dollars, which means once you get on the line, you would have to fly more, potentially overfly, just to hit that goal of 70,000. And several factors will impact your ability to even do more work if you wanted to, whether you're commuting, your body adjusting and adapting to flying. You have new hire meetings you have to attend. You might have other obligations you have to take care of, your family, your friends. Like you got things to do. Your life is not only about the work. So the reason why on one hand, I might argue and share that no, it might actually be difficult for you to make that amount when you're starting off is it's because of these reasons. Like if you're commuting, you have to factor in your flying time to and from base, you actually getting some days off, among other things, spending time with your family. So that would ultimately make it difficult for you to actually be able to work the whole time. Also, if you're new, if you're new to the flight attendant industry or the airline industry as a whole, you would fly more in a day that you would have flown in a year or even 2 years or 3 years. Like when I started, I was flying more in a day than I ever did for the past 5 years that I had been in this country. So your body needs time to adapt and adjust, and that might take a few months. So that alone would hinder you in your ability to actually fly more. The other thing to consider is the fact that business needs, like right now, when you check our system, like our open time or wherever it is that we do go to swap or pick up trips, it is very, very dry. There's barely anything there for you to pick up or to swap into. So it means there isn't a lot of work out there for you to do in the first place. So even if you do want to work more, you can't even do so. So that's one of the things that people do fail to share. And I do want to talk about it in today's video, is the fact that they do say you can work more trips, you can pick up more trips. But if those trips are not there, then what can you do? Okay, so back to the scenario that I was sharing. You want to earn 70,000 a year as a new hire. For the first year, honestly, my honest truth is that it will be difficult. It will be extremely difficult. Not because you can't do it, but you're not set up to be able to achieve that just like that. If I don't know if y'all get me, if you all get me. Like, I'm not saying it to discourage you, but then I'm just saying that realistically, it will be hard for you to do so, because if you're already spending 2 months in training, and then beyond that, you also have to adapt. You have meetings, and your first month, you don't even bid for your schedule. And being a new hire, you might not even get the trips that you want. You might not even get the credit hours that you want. So several factors will go against you that would make it hard for you to make that your first year. However, by year 2, year 3, year 4, then it's possible. But you also have to remember that even when you start other jobs, like most of the time, you're not able to comfortably gauge, especially if you're an hourly employee, because if you're salaried, then you know what your monthly income was. Like when I was salaried, whatever my pay for the month was established. I knew that already. So I didn't, whether I worked more hours or fewer hours, I was still getting paid the same amount anyway. But being an hourly person and then your income being dependent on how many hours you work, that might be a bit difficult to gauge. And also with the way the industry is, you can pick up more hours. There might be times when you can get high credit trips, sometimes you might get low credit trips, and in as much as you can work more, sometimes realistically on your schedule it would be hard to put trips together based on the report time and the release time. So that's why I would say on one hand it might be difficult for you to achieve that. However, on the other hand, you can actually do it, because I know people that fly a lot, like try to do a lot every month. But realistically, honestly, because even with the schedule, the video that I did where I spoke about how much I earned in August, I worked, I believe, 4 days a week, and I had 3 days off every week. And before taxes and everything, I made I think about $5,600, which is close to this $5,800. But that still did not get me close enough to the $5,800, which is at this point $6,000. But remember that I did that in August, and I got on the line, or I became a flight attendant, started training in March. So March, April, May, June, July. So 5 months alone, I was still earning the whatever I was making during that period of time, not doing the most, being in training. So that alone sets me back. So the honest truth is that it might be very hard for you to get 70,000 the first year. However, if you plan and you're strategic for your second year, you can make it happen. Because when I did 5,600 before taxes in August, I worked, I think, out of the 4 weeks, I did my 6 days being on reserve. Then I did at the end of the day, I had about an average of 3 days off, and I worked 4 days out of the month. And I still got that amount. I didn't even overwork myself. It was a very easy month, very smooth month, okay? And also, one of the factors is the trip credits, for example. I had very high time credit trips. My turns or my 1 day trips were well over 10 hours. My 3 day trips were well over 20 hours. So all that counts as well. So it's a bit tricky. So if you do ask somebody a question like, can I make 60,000? Can I make 70,000 a year for my first year? It might be hard for them to answer you, because it's possible. It will be hard, but it's also in the same breath not possible to an extent, because you're new. So the hours you might get might not be enough. Even though you're working, but then your 3 day trip, if your 3 day trip is worth 15 hours, it's different from it being worth 20 hours. So the person who has a 3 day trip that's worth 20 hours is getting more hours for the same amount of time that you're spending to work as well. So that's the difference with regards to that. So let me just refer to the chats real quickly. The Berry says, my training date is it in May or March? It's in. Oh, okay. When is it? When is it, Barry? When is it? Congratulations, though. I'm glad you got your training date. That's a big step. Once you get your training date, it's almost a done deal. It means you're there. You're 2 steps, 3 steps closer. So that's really good. Renelle says, is all position open starting? Sorry, I can't see a portion of it. Let me check this side. I'm not able to see a portion of your comment. Let me see. Starting the first of the year or just flight attendants? It depends. So it depends. It depends. But I will say, always check the, what do you call it? The airline's career website, because they open certain positions at different times. So just because one is open doesn't mean the other is not open. But I do know that, at least with my airline, they do have a goal of hiring a few more people next year. It won't be as high. The number of flight attendants they do plan on hiring won't be as high as what they did this year, starting last year and this year. But they're definitely going to hire more people. And I do know that now that they're not hiring so many people, the job posting will not be up for a long period of time. They might open it for maybe a month and close it in a month or something. Because I think when they opened it in September or whatever, they closed it literally in like a month or so. So just keep an eye out. Once they hit their quota, they're probably going to shut things down at that point. So definitely just keep an eye out. And if you're looking to apply to other positions as well, just go to the career website and always check there. And I've had this question most of the time too, where people would ask me, I want to become a flight attendant. How do I apply? If you want to apply for a job, just go to the company you want to apply to, go to their sites and look on their website. Typically at the bottom, there will be a button or tab for careers or work with us or jobs or whatever. And that's where you can start from. Or you can go to the job search platforms like LinkedIn, Indeed, or what was the other one? There's another one, Zip Recruiter or whatever, and then check there as well. But you can easily just go online and Google and just type how to become a flight attendant, which companies are hiring, and you would get the data you need as well. It's pretty simple. I know the whole industry has been set up to seem very coveted and very secretive or whatever, even though there's so much it's weird. on one hand, there's so much information about the job and what to do and how to do it, and then on the other hand, like, you go to another part of the internet and it's like it seems very secretive and coveted in a way. It's just so interesting, but the information you need is out there, and it's not like, it's not different from applying to any other job. So just keep that in mind. If you want to apply, just go to the website. So let's say you want to work for Emirates. Go to emirates.com, go to the bottom of their website. There should be a tab for careers, and then tap on that and it should take you to the portal. If you want to work for Qatar, do the same thing. If you want to work for Delta, do the same thing. United, American, Alaska, just go to the company's website and then search the career section. That's about it. It's not difficult. Let me go back to the comments real quickly. Once again, my screen is here. That's why I'm looking this direction. Barry's training is set for February. Congratulations. Is swimming required? So when it comes to swimming, right? First of all, if you end up in the ocean or whatever, right? The elements out there alone can be worse than the water itself, first of all, or even the temperature of the water itself. So you being able to swim won't necessarily make a difference, first of all. But that's just by the way. That's just me ranting over here. But the whole point is that I've checked a few job postings for becoming a flight attendant, and the ones that I checked, it did not state anywhere that you should be a swimmer or you're required to know how to swim. Because think about it, when we are preparing ourselves for a evacuation or ditching, which is an evacuation into water or whatever, you wear life jackets, and the life jacket is supposed to enable you to float, essentially. And if you fall, and think about it, realistically, if you should fall in a big ocean, like the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, where are you swimming to? Are you even going to be able to swim that far? So think about it that way. I think in the past it was a required thing, but not anymore. Not with what I'm aware of, not anymore. But I won't say that some places it's not required. That I won't say, because I don't know. I haven't inquired with every single airline company out there. But I know with my airline, it's not a requirement. You're not supposed to know how to swim, but you should be able to manage and get people out of the aircraft, essentially into the water. Like the whole ditching process, you should be able to do it, but you're not required to be a swimmer. So keep that in mind, because I stopped my swimming lessons like halfway through, so I'm not really the best. At this point, I can't even say I know how to swim because I didn't finish it. But yes, no, Barry, it's not, it wasn't required for me. That's all I can say. The Barry says, how do the bases work? Is it assigned based on seniority? And is seniority also age-based or only hire date? So no, seniority is actually age-based, and you would be compared to, or you would be competing essentially with people in your class. So let's say for me, I was in class K, right? So everybody in class K, when we're going through our base selection process, it's done based on age. So if I'm in my class, I said in my base selection video that it was during the base selection process that I was so happy that I wasn't 20 years old, or I wasn't 21. I was super happy that I wasn't 21 because age was a factor. It wasn't nothing but a number. It was a huge factor. So it is based on age. So essentially, if I wanted Seattle, let's say there are 10 of us in my class wanted Seattle and there were only 5 spots available, right? If 5 of us were the oldest people in that class compared to the other 5 people, then we would get it, essentially. So let's say there was 1 spot left for Seattle, and out of the lot, I was the oldest, it would go to me because of age. So that's how the process goes. But first, when you do go for your base orientation, they're going to explain to you the process and everything, and then what to expect, how to actually bid for it and stuff like that. So for me, I bid for Seattle first choice because I lived in Washington State, and then New York was my second choice. No, MSP was my second choice because I knew somebody there, and then also New York was my last choice. And my reasoning was that first, I wanted the place where I lived already, and then MSP because I know somebody there. Even though Salt Lake was closer, I don't know anybody there, so it would be hard to maybe figure things out. But if I know somebody where I'm going to, it's easy for me to say, hey, where can I get this? Where can I, it's the whole support system thing that I was looking for. But I only chose New York. New York also because I know other people that live close to New York. But aside from that, the trips are better there, and the crews there are younger, so it's more young at heart situation over there. But the flying is better. We go all over the world from New York, at least with my airline. So New York is a place to be if you're looking for a very diverse type of flying, because they touch everywhere: Africa, Europe, South America, and then the U.S. as well, domestic, North America, and everything. So yes, but those were my choices. But when you do go through the process, they would explain everything to you. But I will say, when you're choosing your bases, be critical. Think about it, like, because in that moment, I could have easily chosen New York, but then I had to think about commuting, how far away I was, how stressful that would be, and then me being new to the industry. So just be critical when you're thinking about it. Don't only think about how much you want to enjoy the job in terms of the flying, but think about how much you want to enjoy the job in a sustainable way. So keep that in mind. Abby says, are you off probation? Yes, your girl is off probation. Your girl is off probation. I am off. I was off probation in October, so nobody's looking at me and maybe they are. But that's just by the way. Yes, I am finally off probation, and it actually came by really fast. It came by really fast. I've literally been with the company, or I've been in the industry since March now. So it's been well over almost March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. It's been almost 9 months now. So I'm almost a year in, literally, and I feel like I just started. So March 13th would be my 1 year anniversary. So yes, being off probation is great. So let's talk about the money. Let me know if you have any more questions. Barry's hoping for New York. Do you live in New York, Barry? Let me know. If that's the case, trust me, I wish I was based in New York. New York has my heart, but it's still a work in progress. So still talking about the money. If you're just jumping into the live, I'm talking about flight attendant pay, because I've been getting a lot of questions about flight attendant pay, how much we can potentially earn when we're flying as new hires. And because, as usual, your girl is here to share her experience with you all as a new hire. So I came here to do exactly that. And I mentioned in the beginning of the live that we are paid every 2 weeks. Some people, I've heard some getting paid monthly, but we get paid every 2 weeks. And with regards to you being able to earn $65,000 or $70,000 or $80,000 or $60,000 or even $50,000 a year, several factors goes into it. Some of the factors that I did mention was the fact that whether you're commuting, which I did not talk more about it, but the reason why I bring commuting is the fact that when you're commuting, your situation is different. Like, you need time to fly in, you need time to fly back home, you need time to meal prep, you need time to spend off, not flying, not working. Then you need time to work. So my days off, even if I'm working 2 weeks in a month and I have 2 weeks off, as a commuter, realistically, out of the 2 weeks that you have off, you're probably spending 7 days out of those 14 days commuting to and from work. That is if you come in and then you go every week. So keep that in mind. Some people also do it such that they pack their trips for like the first 2 weeks or the last 2 weeks. So they go in one time, stay long enough to work for a long period of time. And then once they're done, they come back home. That's a good way too. So they have crash pads, among other things, just to keep them going. That's another good way, because that way you're not forced to use a lot of your days off to commute in and out of work, which means you're commuting in one time and you're commuting out one time, so just twice. But it's just one of those things where you have to gauge what works for you and maximize your time. And if you're commuting and you're trying to do it on a weekly basis, then it means you can't even pick up a lot of trips even if you wanted to, because it's either you're at base and working the entire month basically and barely spending time at home, or you're trying to balance it such that you're not flying a lot so you can spend more time at home. So that would impact your earning potential as well. The other thing that was very personal to me was the fact that when I started, my body had to adapt to flying. So once I had to adapt, I could not pick up a lot of trips because my body was trying to get used to flying. So for that month alone, I couldn't pick up a lot more trips. So even if I wanted to, I can't. So that's another thing. So yes, another factor that would influence your ability to earn more is the value of your trip. So note that the value of your trip is dependent on the credit value of that trip. So essentially, if you have a 3-day, not only the credit value, but the layover, how valuable the layover is to you as well. And the reason why I add that is the fact that if you're trying to earn a lot more money, like 70,000 a year, being a flight attendant as a new hire, even if not as a new, well, if you've been there for a long time, your earning potential is already high. So whether you get a longer layover or a shorter layover, you're still going to earn a lot of money. But for a new hire, you have to weigh what you want. Is it the layovers, like destinations that you do want to enjoy, that's more valuable to you, or the monetary value you're getting out of the trips? Because typically the trips with the longer layovers, like the 34, if it's not an international trip or TO, which is like Africa, Europe, or whatever, the trips with the longer layovers that are domestic, for example, are not high credit trips. So typically the trips that I've been working are 21, 22, 20 hour, minimum 19 hour, 3-day trips, right? Typically those trips, the layovers are short. They're usually barely making it a 15 or 15 or 16. You might have one of them being 17 or 15 or 16 hours, but typically they're 15 or even less hours. So when you get to a layover and you have 17 or 16 hours, it's hard to do anything fun because you're already exhausted from the flying. And if you all know, if you've been on this channel, you know I'm on a soft life journey. I'm not trying to stress myself here, okay? We're way past the times or the days when we were stressing and busting it hard here and there, okay? We're looking for soft life only. Soft life energy activated. So moments like that, I don't even want to go out to do anything. And with those kind of trips also, sometimes by the time you get to the layover, it's too late to even do anything. It's late, you know? So that's something to consider as well. If you're looking to earn a lot of money while flying, you have to consider what's more valuable to you. Is it that long layover or the high credit trip? And you being a new flight attendant, I wouldn't say you won't, because depending on what base you're at, you might be able to hold it. I can't say. But you might not be able to hold international trips. And I use international loosely to include our Europe, Africa, South America trips and stuff like that. So if you can't hold those trips that are typically high credit trips, then it becomes hard, you know. Even domestically, if you can't hold high credit trips, then it becomes, you know, hard for you to make that money. So then if you're not able to hold, because at my base, international trips like Europe, among other things, or Asia, are well over 20 hours. So automatically, if I'm working those trips consistently, I'm making more money for my time compared to somebody who's in Salt Lake City who's working a 3-day and it's worth 15 or 16 hours or 13 or whatever, you know? So know your base and learn your base. Also figure out what you want, if it's the money or the layovers, because you sometimes you can have both, but sometimes you might not be able to have both. So keep that in mind. The other thing also is that if you do want to earn more to get you closer to your $70,000 or your $60,000 goal, aim for high credit trips. So sometimes, like for me, that's the reason why I've not been able to record or share my layovers and stuff like that, because like I mentioned before, the type of credits that the trips that I've been working, because my goal was to get high credit trips, work those kind of trips so that I'm not forced to work too much. That's why when you see my monthly schedule reveal, even though I have so many days off, like in December, even with me swapping some of my trips for more trips or whatever, or for more work or whatever, I'm set right now to earn over $4,000, almost $5,000. I think it's 4,900 and something, but I still have 14 days off, almost 2 weeks off in December. That should tell you that even though I'm earning about $5,000, when I put my work all together, it's putting me at just working collectively 2 weeks in the month, and I have 2 weeks off, but I'm still making almost for $5,000 at this point. So if I do want to pick up more work, I can pick up more work on those days off. But if I, like I said, soft life activated, no stress, I'm still good with the 2 weeks off and making a good amount of money. And if you want to make $60,000 a year, you would have to make $5,000 every month to earn that amount. So it's really not that scary. It's not extraordinary. It's not impossible. But when you're starting off, focus on your body adjusting to flying, you being able to, because if you follow the money too much, you might get burnt out. You might get exhausted, you might end up hating the job, and then you might end up quitting the job. So let your asset or your focus be on your ability to adapt to the job. So keep that in mind. And I know Your bills don't wait for you. Your expenses don't wait for you. But if you want this long term, because with the way this job is, the reality is you can burn out really, really quickly and really, really easily. And it will sneak up on you when you least expect it. You get burnt out. Like, we're not doing the most on those aircraft, but it's the altitude changes alone impacts your body. Your body reacts. Like when you take a bottle of water onto an aircraft, right? And you open it while in flight, the water literally like busts us out depending on how much pressure has been contained in that bottle. So I've had people open their bottles of water, like their personal bottles of water, and water just gushes out and splashes on everybody. So that's the type of pressure changes that are going on in your body. So your body is experiencing all this consistently as you're flying up and down, up and down, up and down. So even though you're not seeing anything physically, something is happening to you internally. So you have to pace yourself, because if you want it long term, if you want to be able to enjoy the benefits and all that, pace yourself. Your focus for the first year should not be to make more money. And I'm going to say this confidently with my chest out. Yes, I'm going to say this confidently with my chest out. Quote me on this. When you're starting as a new flight attendant, I know we want to make money because our expenses are not waiting for us. Let your focus not be on the money for your first year. Once again, let your focus not be on the money when you're starting off as a new flight attendant. Let your focus be adjusting and adapting to the job you've started, because it is truly a lifestyle change. You have to adapt to it. So keep that in mind. All right. So the other thing you can do to maximize your earning potential, once again, is also just picking up high credit trips. So like I said, citing my example, if you want to make more money, you might have to end up picking up trips that are 20 hours, 21 hours, that probably don't have longer layovers, so you can't really enjoy the trips, the layovers in per se. The other thing also is even when you pick your 2-day trips, for example, aim for higher 2-day trip, credit 2-day trips. And then also your 1-day trips or your turns, aim for like 9 hours, 10 hours, 12-hour turns. But one thing to know, which is very critical, is that the credits of these trips are base specific. So my base, for example, that's a good thing about Seattle. We might seem like an older base and all, old at heart or whatever, but we get high credit trips because of our geographical location. So, and New York has that advantage as well because of where we're both located. So for us, our TOs or our international trips to Europe or Asia, 24 hours, 22 hours for 3-day trips, among other things. Even if you have a domestic trip, we've had domestic trips that are well worth over 22 hours, and they're domestic. You're not even going anywhere across international waters or borders. So because of the location, we have high credit trips. We've had 2-day trips that are worth 16, 17 hours, right? We've had 1-day trips or turns that are worth 11, 10, 12. I've seen 9 is okay, but 9 is still low for me, but it's better than nothing. Okay. But because of the way the base is set up or the rotations are built, we can have that. But if you go to a base like Salt Lake City, I've seen trips, and even Atlanta sometimes. Atlanta is a bigger base, so the pool is wider, so there are more options. But a place like Salt Lake, for example, would have 3-day trips that are worth 14, 13 hours, or 1-day trips. They don't even have even if they do have rotations that are worth very high credit, it goes to the very senior people. So chances of you being a junior person getting it is very, very minimal. So then you would end up with 3-day trips that are not high credit worthy. Okay, so that's something to consider. However, if I already lived in Salt Lake City, I wouldn't mind, because what trumps everything is when you live at base. Like, if you don't have to commute, it trumps everything, especially when you're starting off. Remember, y'all, I'm a new flight attendant. I'm not talking about a veteran, somebody who's super senior, who can get on their trips to work when they're commuting because they have a very high seniority or whatever. I'm talking about a new flight attendant being hired in 2023, 2022, 2024, like very new person. So your seniority is at the bottom of the bottom. So if you live at base, regardless of whether you're getting high credit trips at that base or not, that should trump everything else, like the fact that you live at base. So if you're making your decision, that's what I can confidently tell you to take under consideration. If you live in New York and you really, for whatever reason, want to be based in Seattle or Atlanta or whatever, don't do it. At least for your first year, stay where you are, stay where you live, and just work at the base where you live. It's better, you adapt better, things are easier, it's less stressful, okay? Because there's some pressures out here in these streets and you do not want that. Let me just check the comment section real quickly. Abby says, congratulations. Thank you. Thanks, sis. Thank you. Barry says, oh, Barry, you're in New York. Perfect. Then that's perfect. If you're in Newark and the commute from Newark to the JFK airport, because we do work out of LaGuardia and JFK. So if the commute to JFK and LaGuardia, like you're mentioning, is not a problem, then that's perfect. See, that's a win-win situation right there. Barry says, what are the credit hours and how different is that from regular hours? I hear you say that a lot. So the credit hours is the value of the trip, right? So, and it's based on your flight time. So let's say, let me use a typical rotation. Let's say a 3-day rotation, right? And you're supposed to go from Seattle to New York to Miami. And then the first day you do Seattle to JFK. Then the second day you do JFK to Miami. And then on the third day you do Miami to Seattle. And the flight time for Seattle to JFK is blocked for, let's say, 6.5 hours. And from JFK to Miami, it's blocked for 4 hours or 5 hours. And then let's say 5. And then from Miami to Seattle, it's also blocked for, let's say, 7 hours, which means the credit for the hours that the flights are blocked is 7 plus 6 plus 5. So that would be the total credit time for that trip, right? Based on the flight time total that the flight has been blocked for. The reason why I say blocked is because sometimes it might be blocked for 7 hours, but the actual flight time will be maybe 6.5 or something. You know, maybe the winds are better. We got shortcuts, okay? But that's what I mean by credit. So the credit hours is similar to your hourly pay if you were working another job. It's the value of the trip that you're working in hourly terms, essentially. That's what that is. And it's similar to you working hourly. The only difference is that when you go to your typical 9 to 5, when you clock in, right, your shift starts. So if you clock in at 7 o'clock a.m., your shift start, whatever your base pay is, you're getting paid from 7 till when you clock out. But with us, it's different. You might sign in at 5 o'clock, but your actual flight pay starts when the boarding door is closed and the aircraft pushes away from the gate, the jetway gate. That's when your flight time starts. So let's say we boarded the aircraft and then we close the boarding door, we pushed away from the gate, and then we're about to take off or whatever. But then for whatever reason, we get stuck on the tarmac because there's a line, there are too many aircraft that are landing or taking off, so we're in queue or whatever. All that time that you're waiting on the tarmac, because the boarding door is closed and you've pushed away from the gate, you're getting paid your flight time. When you take off, you're getting paid your flight time till you land, get to the gate, and then the aircraft attaches itself to the gateway, the boarding door opens, then your flight pay stops, essentially. So that's what that means with regards to your flight time. And as I discussed this in my flight attendant pay video, our pay system is very convoluted. So you have to, as a new hire, your focus should be on your flight time, how much you're getting from your time away from base, which is your layover pay, and then flight lead pay, because sometimes you might get escalated to flight lead as well. But the most important thing is to understand when you're getting that flight time, and then also your layover pay when you're getting it and how that adds up. Those are the most important thing. There are other pays, but those don't matter as much as your actual flight time, knowing when it starts and when it ends. Yeah. The other thing also is, can you give examples if you can? Yes. So I hope that example was good, Barry. Just let me know in the comments or in the chats. Okay, get it now. Abigail says, no, exactly. No stressing. I'll be like, we're in a soft life only, like activated. We're not here to play. We ain't got time to play. Okay. Barry says, very informative. Thank you so much, Barry. Thank you. And once again, if you're making your way into the live, don't forget to drop a comment. If you have any questions about flight attendant pay, let me know as well. Drop it in the comment section below. If you haven't subscribed also, tap on that subscribe button, please. Tap on it real quickly, okay? Tap on it real quickly. What are you trying to do? So today I am talking about flight attendant pay because I've had several questions about how much new hires can make for the first year, and I'm just trying to explain the several factors that do impact your ability to do so. And I think I left off by talking about the fact that the base you're at influences how much you can potentially earn. Because if your base doesn't have high time credits, it means that you might have to work more. So let me give this example to explain that. Maybe this would help. So let's say my base, for example, averagely, because as a new hire, I have been able to hold these high credit domestic trips, which means there's either enough of it for me to hold it and be assigned it, or senior people just don't want it because they're getting the TOs. Several factors can be with regards to that. But the point I'm trying to make is that the fact that as a junior person, I can hold high credit 3-day trips that are worth 21 hours or 22 hours, mean compared to somebody who's in Salt Lake City who might not hold those credits, you know? So then their factors might be that there probably isn't a lot of high credit trips there. So then there isn't even enough to go around for a junior person to hold it. Or the few that is there is being capitalized or monopolized by the senior people there. So then the junior person can't hold it, okay? Or there just aren't trips like that there at all. That's also a possibility. So if I work, let's say 2 weeks out of the month, compared to somebody who's in Salt Lake who works 2 weeks out of the month. So we're both working 2 weeks and getting 2 weeks off essentially. So our 8 days or our reserve days is less than 6 days. So out of the 14 days, which is 2 weeks, we have how many weeks left? We have 9 weeks left, right? Because 6 days has been taken for 14. We're talking about 7 days. So 6 days. So we have 8 days left. Yes. So out of the 2 weeks that we're working, 6 days is reserved. Both of us have 6 days for reserve. So we only have 8 days of work that we can do. 8 days means that we can do 2 3-day trips, which will be 6 days, and then 1 2-day trip, right? Me being in Seattle, my 2 3-day trips might be 20 hours a pop. And then my 2-day trip might be, let's say 13 hours, right? So that puts my credit of work, my credit hours, which will be my hourly pay of the $33.81. Those hours will be 20, 20, 40 plus 13, which is 53 hours, right? So for 8 days, I'm doing 2 3-day trips and a 2-day. And in Seattle, I'm earning 53 hours from that. Somebody in Salt Lake might do the same, another set of 3 days, 2 sets of 3 days and a 2-day trip. However, the credits for their 3-day trips will probably be 15, that's 30 hours, and their 2-day trip might probably be worth 11 hours, which will put them at 44. It will be 44 hours, right? Because if it's 15, no, it's going to be 41 hours because it's 15 for 3 days, for both 3 days, and then it's 11 hours for the 2 days. So even though we're both working just 8 days, because our reserve is 6 and 8 days for for work, for flying, and we're doing 2 3-day trips and a 2-day, I'm getting 53 hours for that. They're getting 41 hours. So automatically, even though we're working, I would say just as much, because it means that I'll probably have more flying to do. Well, sometimes I do have multiple flights too, even though they're short. The difference is that even though I have multiple flights with my credit rotation, the flights are long distance, they're further away, so I'm flying longer periods, so I'm making more money for my time, whereas they have a full 3-day and they're making only 15, and I have a full 3-day and I'm making 20 because I'm flying further than they are, or I'm doing multiple flights, because sometimes they do multiple flights too. They might have 3 legs, 4 legs, but then they're short flights, so it's not even adding value to their total credit trip. So that's the reason why I always say it's base specific, because we're both working 8 days, we're working 2 2-day trips and a 2-day, and yet you're making 41 hours and I'm making 53 hours out of the same amount of days of work. I think that's the best way to put it. We're all gone for 8 days. I'm gone for 8 days, you're gone for 8 days. I'm making 53 hours for my 8 days. You're making 41 hours for 8 days. Y'all catch my drift? So that's why I always say, when you're trying to make money, pay attention to the credit value of the trips. And if you know a base doesn't have high credit trips, then you might potentially be forced to fly more days. So this individual, for example, who would be working 8 days with 41 hours, and I'm doing 8 days with 53 hours, I might not have to pick up any extra trips because I'm making 53 more hours. I'm making 12 more hours more than they are. So they might have to pick up another 2-day just so they can get to the number of hours that I have worked within that period of time. So that's where the advantage of being based in Seattle comes in. Because as a new hire, one thing I can confidently tell you all, living here, paying my own bills, paying my rent, like everything, I have been able to smoothly and easily adapt to the job without having to fly too much. I did not fly too much. I didn't do anything extra. Worst case scenario, if I got 2-3-day trips assigned and a turn or a lean over, I would pick up another 3-day trip and that was it. So I didn't have to do too much just to adapt to the job and earn some sort of income. So that's the benefit that I've had from living in Seattle and being based in Seattle, and I really appreciate that for sure. Hello y'all. If you're making your way into the live, I am talking about flight attendant pay. Everyone has been trying to find out if they can make $65,000 or $70,000 as flight attendants, and I'm trying to tell them that nothing is, I wouldn't say it's impossible, because I never want to say something is impossible, but what I can say is that it will be hard to do so. So keep that in mind. And you all know that I try to be as realistic as I can be when I'm telling you all the real tea. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything or whatever. If you're just joining us, you can definitely rewind and go back to the beginning and just check it out from the start, okay? Once again, if you do have any questions about flight attendant pay, feel free to drop it. I barely come through with live, so if you catch me, ask me all the questions you have, okay? Because you might not see me for a while. Let me just go ahead and check the comment section real quickly. Mary says that was perfect. I'm glad you got it. Hey Shalonda, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Let me know. That makes sense. Perfect. What was your question? Would that apply to Atlanta too? So one thing about Atlanta is that Atlanta is our headquarters and it's a much bigger base. They have like over 8,000 flight attendants there. So, and Atlanta flies everywhere. It's similar to New York as well. Like they go to a lot of places as well, and it's a bigger airport, bigger base, more rotations. I would say Atlanta has a good combination of good trips loosely, meaning that high credit trips and possibly low credit trips. But one thing that personally I don't like about Atlanta is the fact that they have a lot more trips with multiple legs in them. Legs means the flights you're flying in a day. So you might have a rotation, a 3-day trip that day 1 you're working like 4 flights. Day 2 you're working 3 flights, and then day 3 you're probably working 3 more flights. And the reason why I say that is because they have a lot of those there. And my issue, it's complicated to explain this, because it's one thing having a rotation, a 2-day or a 3-day trip with multiple legs in a day, being value very high. But it's another thing having a 3-day or 2-day rotation with multiple flights a day, but the value or the credit value of the trip is low. So that's the downside. But I think Atlanta has a good balance. But the issue with Atlanta is that if you're a new hire, you're a super junior, and there are a lot of senior people there too. So maybe you might not be able to hold those good credit trips or those good rotations or whatever. It might go to the senior person. However, if you are in Atlanta or New York or whatever and you're on reserve, chances of you getting a really good trip to Joburg, to Cape Town, to somewhere nice, somewhere in Africa or whatever, Lagos, Nigeria, whatever, is very high, because they have like a good amount of rotation, especially New York. If you're in New York and you're on reserve, you know you're probably going to end up in South America somewhere, or you're going to end up in Europe somewhere, or you're going to end up somewhere in Africa if you're on reserve, because there are good trips, like more diverse destinations there. So if somebody calls out, chances of them calling out of a good trip is very high, because there are high numbers of good trip. Whereas in Seattle, we don't have a lot of diverse international destinations. We only do Asia, and we're barely scraping Asia, if you ask me. We don't do Africa, we don't do South America. that much. You know, we don't do South America, so you're limited to just a few amount of layover destinations that are international. Lucy, remember, it includes TOs and everything. So on your reserve days, chances of you getting used is probably minimal. Chance of you getting used and getting a good rotation like in Amsterdam or Paris or London or Tokyo or whatever is also minimal, because we don't even have a lot of those going around, you know. So several factors goes into all those things. But if you live in Atlanta and you can be based in Atlanta, take it anyway, because as I've said, you having to commute, if you don't have to commute, that trumps everything. Like that I can confidently say, quote me anywhere. Like if you don't have to commute as a new hire, that trumps everything, because that gives you time to adapt. You live in where your airport is. That's like the ultimate prize. It's easier. I'm telling you all, it's easier. I do plan on interviewing a friend of mine though, who has actually gone through the commuting process. She was commuting here. Eventually she moved here. She brought her vehicle and everything here. And she's like the token child at this point. Like she made it happen so smooth. Not, I would say it was easy, but she made it happen in a way that it was beautiful, if you ask me, because I don't know how to put it, but maybe she can put it in better words or terms or whatever. But I do plan on having her share her story with you all, so that if you do want to commute or if you do have to commute, you can take some pointers from that, because I feel like she eased herself into it and adapted and assimilated herself, and she's actually making it happen to the point where now she lives here, you know. So that's like a story that I really want to put out there, because sometimes people also make commuting seem like it's hell, and it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but you can make it happen if you prioritize properly and you keep your eye on the prize, essentially. But yes, if you live in Atlanta, regardless of how bad the trips might be for you as a junior person, if you live there, stay there, because commuting is hard. It is hard. Like, it means you have to fly to work all the time. So the same way customer flights can get canceled or delayed, that applies to you too. Aside from being able to get on the aircraft or not, that's another thing you have to battle with. Even the flight taking off applies to you as well. And obviously there are covers for you in terms of you missing a flight to work or whatever. But why would you want to put yourself in that situation as a new hire when you can just live at a base, and you already live at a base? Why would you choose another base? And I'm not trying to be naive. I do get it that sometimes you might live at a base, but that base might not be available for you to select from anyway. But I will say, if you do get the opportunity to move back or switch back or whatever, take advantage of it, at least for your first year. Like, living at base has made life very easy. It's trust me, it's been good. Shalanda says, I mean, it's a coastal thing. Yes, so that's true too. But the issue with Atlanta is that because it's such a huge base with a large pool of flight attendants and very senior people, chances of you being able to hold like good trips, for me, and good trip is different for everybody. A good trip for somebody would be a trip to Albuquerque with a 34-hour layover, and that's it. That's a good trip for somebody. For me, a good trip is a trip that has high credit value, that has less flights to work in a day. So less flights for me is maximum. If I can get away with 2 flights a day for each day for 3 days, I'll take it, but I'll settle for 3 days on one of those days. So for me, a good flight, for example, would be a 20-hour or 21-hour credit 3-day trip with 2 legs the first day, 2 legs the second day, and 1 leg the last day. The legs are the flights per day. So I'm working 2 flights a day the whole 3 days, or I'm doing 3, 2, 1 a day. I'm working 3 flights the first day, 2 flights the second day, 1 flight the last day. And then also the layovers are not too short. They're not 11 hours or 12 hours or 13. They're minimum 15, 16, 17, 18. Personally, if I'm doing a 34-hour layover, it has to be international or something. I can't do 34 domestic. After 24 hours, I'm over it. Let's go home. Let's go home. I don't know. Maybe I haven't done a lot of them to get comfortable, but it is what it is. After 34 hours, get me out of here. The only place I want to spend 48 hours or 50 hours is somewhere international. Don't put me in Albuquerque for 48 hours. I'm sorry. It's beautiful, but after 24 hours, I'm good. Let's go. Let's go. It's time to go back home. AD says, hey lady, hey AD. And OC William says, I just got my CJO with your company yesterday. I'm wondering how long the background check takes and when I'll get my training day. So first of all, congratulations on getting your CJO. Let me know in the chats how your event day was. Let me know your in-person interview. Did you enjoy it? Was it as fun as mine was? And the other question that you have about the background check. The background check is honestly highly dependent on how quickly you submit the information. So, and then how extensive your background data is. So if you haven't done much, or you don't have a lot to go with your background history, then it will be easy. But for me, I had an issue with mine, and even with that, it took less than a week. It took less than 5, because it was over the weekend, it took almost a week just for them to figure out whatever it is that they had to do. Because I schooled in Europe, but they assumed that because I schooled in Europe, I lived in Europe. So they were expecting me to have a European address or whatever. So that delayed my process a bit. But it's highly dependent, how fast they go is highly dependent on how quickly you provide the information and how extensive your background data is. Because if you have like issues like tickets here and there, parking issues, arrest, like all those kind of things, then it becomes more sensitive and it becomes more serious. So then I guess more attention has to go into it. So that might slow down as well. But remember also that you might get your CJO on the same day with some people, but you might end up in a training class ahead of them because of maybe how slow the background check is. Always check your emails as well too, because they're usually communicating with you through the email if anything comes up. And then continue to check the portal as well. The portal will show you the status of where you are with the process. But once that is done, then it just goes to the next step where they would actually check to see what training classes they have available, have you make a choice and all that. But pay attention to your email. It wasn't that long with regards to mine, even with the issue that I had with the address thing. It wasn't that long. Once they rectified that address thing and figured out that, hey, I didn't live there, hello, it was good to go. It was just a matter of them sending me an email about what training classes were available. So it's not a long process, but like I said, it depends on how extensive your background data is. If you have a lot for them to sift through, that might take time as well. And just because somebody is moving quickly in the process does not mean that there's a problem with you. Just check the portal to see the status for you, because I ended up in the training class ahead of almost everybody that I got the CJO with, that were in that room with me. So keep that in mind as well. I saw some of them literally come into training when I was already in training. So keep that in mind as well. And with regards to when you would get your training date, like I said, once your background check goes through, the next steps, they'll send you email communication with regards to what would happen. But usually, I don't know, I have a whole playlist set up in my channel on how to become a flight attendant, where I have arranged my videos according to the process and every step of the way, what I went through from start to finish. So I'm not sure which video came first or not, but I think the training date came after the background check was done. I think that's what it was. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but I do have a playlist on how to become a flight attendant on my channel where I share my journey from start to finish, so you can definitely check it out. Once again, if you're making it in right now and you haven't subscribed, I don't know why, but hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comment section as well. I'm looking this area because that's where my screen is, just to take a look at your chats real quickly. AD says they have a question. Do you think there's hope after being sent home after the face-to-face? I say yes, because remember, whenever a company is hiring a group of people, right, they have a quota they're supposed to meet, right? And one thing people should note and remember is that when you don't get offered a conditional job offer, which is a CJO or whatever, it doesn't always mean that you weren't good enough for the job. It can also mean that they had hit their number and that was it. They could only take 10 people. There were 12 of you that were good, but ultimately I can only take 10 out of the 12. And maybe the last person that I took had something that leverage over you, had a leverage over you, a slight leverage over you. It doesn't necessarily mean that if they were going to pick 12 people out of the 30 of you that were out of the 12 that were there, they wouldn't have added you to it as well. So keep that in mind. Sometimes it doesn't always mean that you weren't good enough for the job. Why do you think people go back several times and they end up getting it anyway? It's still the same person. Obviously, they might have changed or improved, but ultimately, just look at it from the perspective of, if you know deep within yourself that you gave your all and you feel that you believe that you did extremely well based on the parameters out there, then you not getting your CGO does not necessarily mean that you were not good enough for the role. It just means that sometimes they just hit their number and that was it. With that being said, if the 10 they picked out of the 12, for example, the 10 goes through their drug test or whatever. And yes, back to, before I move on to that question, AD. No, was it AD? No, it was OC. Yes. With your question with regards to getting a training date, it's based on your background check and your drug test. Yes, those two things. The sooner they get the results for those and you're cleared, the sooner you get a training date or you get the ability to pick your training date. But back to the question that AD had. So if you get sent home and you don't get the offer, let's say, like my example, you were good. It's just that their number was 10 and they had to pick the 10 and you happened to be cut off, right? So you could have potentially been picked if that 10th person wasn't picked. And let's say out of the 10, one person fails their drug test or doesn't pass the background check or whatever. They can potentially reach back out to somebody else and give them the CJO. I don't know if you get it. The reason why, and I'm saying this not specifically to my airline because everybody does their process differently. And it's one of those things where that's a possibility, even though it might seem far-fetched, but I feel it's a possibility because if they can tell us not to let other people know that this and this and this happened, then it means potentially there's room for that to happen as well. So even though depending on the airline you go to for the face-to-face, if you don't get it in person, it means that's it. You might not get it at all. I would say just move on and just keep looking and keep trying and keep doing what you need to do. But it's not far-fetched. I haven't heard anybody getting it after they left. I haven't heard that yet, but if I do, I will let you know. But I always say that's how I see it. Just because you didn't get it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not, like, you know, good enough or whatever. But anything can happen. Like, anything can happen. They can definitely reach back for sure. The other thing is just here to support the channel. Thank you so much for me. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate you. Yes, so back to what I was talking about. Once again, if you're just jumping in, we've been talking about flight attendant pay and if being a new hire, if you can actually make what you call it, 65,000, how much you can earn in the first year. And then let me just get a sip of water. Yes, let's congratulate OC Williams. He just got his CJO literally yesterday, so congrats on that. It's definitely a big deal. Hopefully you get the same training date as D. Barry. Barry got his training date for February 1st. So if you got your CJO yesterday, hopefully your background check and your drug test comes back clear quickly so that you might end up in his training class too. And keep that in mind. There are people that got their CJOs on different days and different months and still ended up in the same training class with some people. So keep that in mind as well. The other thing that I do want to share before I gather myself to leave is that when it comes to what a good trip might be or how valuable a trip might be or whatever in terms of your ability to increase your earning potential, always talk to your veteran flight attendants. Like, reach out to people that have been in the industry or are still in the industry. The reason why I say that is because every base is different. And because every base is different, what's good trip-wise might differ from base to base. So like I gave the example about what a good trip for me is at my base. It might be different from somebody who lives in Salt Lake, LA, or New York, or Atlanta, right? So you can only get that information, or ways by which you can get that information is by talking to other people that are in the industry as well, doing your research, reviewing your bid package. The bid package essentially is like a file where it shows you the trips that are projected to be flown the month coming or the month you're going to be scheduled for. So December would have a big package, February would have a big package, November would have a big package. So you know the specific trips that are rotations that are going to happen, or trips that are bound to happen or scheduled to happen in the month you're working in. So by reviewing that, it would actually allow you, and I say this to new hires because a lot of new hires, we get caught up in the whole process of the work, adapting, adjusting, trying not to break any rules, trying not to get in trouble, that we forget about all the other stuff that can make our lives easy when it comes to the work. And for me, being a new hire, I knew right out the door that I would not be able to get the international trips that I want. If I bid for it, chances of me getting it is very low because I'm super junior and I might not be able to hold it. However, what I can do for myself is to review the bid package, figure out which domestic trips that I feel like I really like, know the kind of trips that are going to be out there, know the credits of the kind of trips that are going to be available in the month that I'm bidding for, and bid for those things, or gauge my change and gauge the credit value of those trips. So if I know that in the month of December, right, averagely the 3-day trips that we're getting, except for the international trips, are going to be 19 or 18 hours or 22 or 23, then I know that if I'm bidding for high credit 3-day trips, I'm going to bid higher because I know that our bid package is showing that our 3-day trips are going to be worth more now, you know? So that's one of the things or reasons why you should review your bid package, is to give you knowledge of the value of the trips that your crew or the company would be operating from your base for that month. So if I know that 2-day trips are now for month of December are going to be 18 and 19 or 17 or whatever, I know that I need to go back to my bidding and just review it and increase the credit values that I'm bidding for my 2-day trip. Obviously, everything is seniority based, so just because you're asking for something doesn't mean you're going to get it. And that's one thing you all should know. Everything is seniority based, right? Almost everything is seniority based. So you might ask for things like you would see in my schedule value videos where I tell you the things that I bid for. That's you asking for things. That doesn't mean you're going to get it, right? However, if you talk around and ask questions and you gather knowledge and you review their files that are generated that shows you people at your seniority level, what they're able to hold, that can also impact your knowledge on what to ask for in the future. So one of your assets is looking for information. That's one of the biggest assets for a new hire in this industry, is looking for information. That would be your greatest asset, because if you don't go looking for it, nobody's gonna come begging you or trying to give you anything. You have to look and ask questions. Hey, what is this credit trip worth? What does this mean? How valuable is this? How would this increase my earning potential? How can I do this to make this, that, you know? So keep that in mind. Your asset is looking for information, and you have to get information. Knowledge is power, as they say, and trust me, it is true, okay? So keep that in mind. Let me know if y'all have any questions. So yes, if you want to make $70,000 as a new hire, it would be hard. Realistically, it will be hard. It means you're going to have to overwork and do all that good stuff. And as a new hire, I wouldn't advise you to do it. Like I said during the live, your major concern as a new hire with regards to your earning potential is, for the first year, should be more on how to adapt to the job, because it is a lifestyle change, and you would want to be well enough to work steadily than to overwhelm yourself, break down, and dip out. You don't want that. So keep that in mind. I'm just gonna check the comment. Oh, we are 1 hour and 17 minutes in so far. Ooh, it's a long time. The goal was 30 minutes, but here we are. Let me see. OC says, thank you. By far the best interview process ever. Yes, I felt like I won the Grammy when they told me I was getting my CJO. Trust me, the feeling is so good. It is so good. It makes no sense, y'all. Like it's just a overwhelming, such a good experience. It's definitely a good experience. I really hope I get based in Atlanta, because I live like 12 minutes from the airport. So yes, you would definitely eventually find out which bases are available for you to pick out of. During my time, 6 bases were available. It was Seattle, New York, MSP, which is Minnesota, and Salt Lake City, Boston, and Detroit. Yes, so you would know, and looking at the time that you got your CJO, it means your training will probably be next year, which will be at the beginning of the year. So hopefully Atlanta is available and you do get it. But if you don't get it right away and you get another base, you can always request for a transfer. Once again, these transfer requests or whatever are all seniority based. I know people say those things like loosely, oh, you can request for a transfer, you can pick up this, you can do this. Like, they're typically seniority based. So you can ask for Atlanta, but if other people more senior than you ask for it and there's a limited number to fill up, then you might not get it. However, the good thing about you is that you live at a base as well. So let's say, right, you get, maybe only Seattle is available, for example, and you do get Seattle and you live at Atlanta. I think the only thing that would force you to go to your base, which is Seattle, would be your reserve days. But if you're able to get and hold high credit trips, you can post it for other people to pick it up from you. Or you can post it and have other people pick it up from you. If they do pick it up, then your schedule is clear, so you can then pick trips out of Atlanta. So the only time you might end up coming to base, which is your Seattle base, will be you working your reserve days. So that's one of the flexibilities too. I know in reality it might not always be possible. Like, you might not always have somebody pick up the trips that you've posted or you've put on the swap board, but in theory, the whole idea is that you live at Atlanta is a base, you're based in Seattle, or even you're based in Detroit or whatever, you have to do your 8 days or your reserve days, which are 6 days. If you can get somebody to pick up all those things from you, your 8 days and your trips, then it frees up your schedule for you to be able to pick up trips outside of your base, which is Atlanta, which is where you live. The advantage for you also is that you can aim to work as minimum as you can at the base that you got during training, which is not where you live. That way you can pick up trips from where you live. So that's another advantage as well, because I know flight attendants out there who are based in one state, based in, let's say, New York, but live in Detroit. So even though they're based in New York, they do have to fulfill their obligations for New York. But if they want to do extra work, they can pick out of Detroit. So they're not forced to commute just to do extra work. So that commuter has the ability potentially to make more money because they live at base. They live at a base. Exactly. So that's another advantage as well. But it's one thing living in Phoenix, Arizona, which doesn't have a base, and being based in LA. Then it means all the flying you can do would obviously has to be away from where you live, which can make it harder for you to pick up more flights. So yeah, I hope you get it. Fingers crossed, because 12 minutes from the airport is amazing. I'm going for my face-to-face next Tuesday. Oh wow, congratulations. I think mine was on a Tuesday too. Well, congratulations for being invited in the first place, because some people don't even get to that point at all. So that's a huge achievement. The other the other thing also is that go do you. I do have a video on my channel where I share with you some of the things you can do to be successful to get your CJO at the face-to-face. So definitely check it out as well. But congratulations, Shalon. I pray, fingers crossed, very hopeful that you get your CJO. Just be yourself. Don't do too much. Some people go there and they do the most thinking that it's going to get it, but they're going to get it, but they never do. So yeah, just be yourself and be confident as well. And you don't have to know everything that's going on, but you have to show initiative, show that you're making the effort. You're a team player, you know. Obviously, there are going to be moments where you have to show that you can own things on your own, but also show that you're a team player. Because some people go and they try to take ownership of everything, trying to be the only person in the room, and it ends up going against them. So keep that in mind. Interesting story. I literally had somebody during my event day where they were like literally seen by everybody. I can tell you, everybody saw them. Everybody knew them, because right from the beginning they were very interactive, just doing a lot and trying to be like in the center of attention or whatever. And the funny thing was that I knew they didn't get it because it was obvious they were no longer in the room with us. So that's the thing. Like, you're put on a pedestal, you're all over the place, and then when you don't get it, it becomes super obvious because everybody saw you and now we can't see you anymore. So, and they didn't get it. So just trying to make everything about you, it's not the way to get it. Just keep that in mind. The other thing is the one and only SK. Hey, welcome. Yes, I'm in Detroit, but I live in Atlanta, and I drop trips to pick up in Atlanta all the time. So if you don't get Atlanta, don't be discouraged. Yep. Thank you so much for sharing that, the one and only SK. Like I was saying, if you live at a base, it's an advantage, even if you have to commute to your assigned base, because you have access to two bases. One you live at, one is your primary assigned base. And like the one and only SK said, you can try and drop your trips all the time where you're assigned, only to pick up work from where you live, which is a base. So it's not always a bad thing. As long as you live in Atlanta and you're 12 minutes away from the airport, it's perfect. It can work out in your favor as well. So that's amazing. And then you get to enjoy the best of both worlds. Let's say you get assigned New York, right? And you live in Atlanta. New York has really good trips. So if you do, you can have the best of both worlds. The months or the periods where you don't want to commute a lot, you can just try and drop your trips in New York and pick out of Atlanta. But you also have the ability to work out of New York because you're already assigned there. So whatever trips you get, if you like it, you can work it too. So that's actually not bad. So yeah, definitely take note of that. Who was it? Yes, Williams, OC Williams. Yes, definitely take note of that. If you get based somewhere else, like the one and only SK said, you can try and drop your trips at your assigned base only to work at the base where you currently live. So do not be discouraged. I like that. Shalonda said, you said be a leader and a follower at the same time. That is true. That is true, but it's tricky. Like, there's a fine. Okay, let me give you let me put it in a perspective that will make it clearer. So when I say lead or be confident, what I mean is that when you go for the event day, there's going to be a moment where you're going to have your one-on-one interview, right? In that moment, it's just you and somebody interviewing you. That's the actual face-to-face, right? So during that moment, it's time to show out. It's time to show that you know what to do, you know? And I say be confident and be a leader or exude leadership personality or personalities, is that if you happen to be put in a place where you are a team leader, then you have to show out there too. However, if you're not, because I don't want to say too much, because there are going to be several activities that are going to happen, and there are going to be several situations that are going to happen to give you the opportunity to do both. But when I say be a team player, what I mean is that, like in my case, when there was a session, right, where I had to work with a group of people, and nobody said, I'm going to be the leader, I'm going to lead, and you do this, you do that, you do that. It was more like a collaborative effort. However, in the moment, I was confident enough to say, hey, you're saying we should do A, B, C, D, but according to this information, we can't do A, we can only do B and C. You get it? So even though it was a group thing, I was bold enough to come out and say, no, like if we do A, is going against this based on what I see here. You know, I'm not trying to give out a lot, but I hope you get what I'm saying. So it's one of those things where, because I have led teams, I have leadership potential, but then I also have the ability to also just blend in with everybody else, you know, and knowing when to balance it out is what I'm trying to say when I say you have to try and do both. Because there are moments where it's going to call for either or, and then you have to be able to show out in that moment. So that's what I mean. I hope that helps a bit. But yeah, Shalana, you definitely have to be bold, because with the way the job works, you're independent. Nobody's micromanaging you. Nobody's watching you or monitoring your every move every second when you're doing the job. However, you're also working with other people. So you do have to be somebody who can own their own and be a leader and take charge of situation, and then also be able to work with other people, because there are people who can't balance the two. They're either in charge, they have to be in charge, or they have to be the follower. No, there has to be moments where you can take charge and moments when you can't, because sometimes you might be working a trip and you started off as just a team player, the next thing you know, you get escalated to be the leader of the team that you were working with initially. So in that moment, what are you going to do? You can't have the follower mentality in that moment. You're supposed to take charge and be responsible for your crew. So keep that in mind as well. So that's where that comes in. So the job in itself requires you to have the qualities of both, or be able to do both when it calls for it. The Barry says, all the best, Yolanda. Exactly. Be yourself. Don't be all over the place. Trust me. Don't. I'm telling you, when we started, the very first person that was literally answering questions, raising their hand, asking questions, just doing a lot, they did not get their CJ. And the only reason I remember is because they were no longer in the room afterwards. So trust me, when you put yourself too high, the fall hits even harder. So keep that in mind. But yeah, let me know if you have any more questions. It's an hour and 29 minutes in. I'm so glad you all showed up. So once again, let me know in the chats below before I go. Let's make this more interactive. Do you think, based on what I have shared, the factors that I've mentioned in this live, do you think that as a new hire, you will be able to, you would aim to make $70,000 a year or $65,000 a year? Would that be your goal to do? Let me know what, and if you are a flight attendant right now and you have something to share, please feel free to share, because I might say it, but maybe if you say it, they might get it. But like I said, y'all, and I'm not gonna change my mind, let your aim as a new hire be you adapting to the job, because it's a huge lifestyle change. And don't focus on the money too much. Just focus on making enough to cover your expenses, to get some to save or whatever, so that you give yourself breathing room to adapt and adjust to the job. That way, when you start doing more work, your body is already ready and can handle it. Keep that in mind, because the work takes a toll on your body. We're not like doing the most lifting stuff and doing crazy stuff. It's not like the associates that I used to have when I worked at Amazon, where they're like lifting boxes, pushing stuff, driving stuff, and doing all that. You're not doing so much of those physical labor work, but even just the altitude changes can impact your health, and it sneaks up on you because you don't feel it, you don't see it, but then the next thing you know, you're getting burnt out. So keep that in mind. Joy Bay says, hey Princella, now that you're a flight attendant and having gone through the process, if you were the hiring manager, what would you look for in a candidate? Great video, thanks so much. So what would I look for in a candidate? That's a really good question. I appreciate that question. I should probably do a whole video talking about that. That's a really good question. One thing I will look out for is, or I would try and put together a test or some sort of assessment or some sort of activity that tests people's temperaments. Yeah, because I feel like temperaments play a huge role with regards to this job. And when you don't get the right one, it can be hard out there in these streets. But then again, people do pretend. So you might do whatever you can, but it still might not, it still might not show or pop out, or might not reflect or whatever. But people's temperament is similar to their disposition, like what they're likely to do in a situation like A, B, or C, or their character or their personality, like who they are, right? And it's one of those things where I feel like with the way this job is, like I said, you have to be confident, you have to be stern, you have to be able to hold your own, and because you're communicating with passengers and you're like upfront and personal with passengers, like they're literally in very close proximity to you. And it's one of those things where you never know who you're going to get, the state they're in, the situation they're in, and you being able to switch hats and mood or whatever, it's very important. So temperament will be a big one, a big one for sure. The other thing that I would look for is people's ability to manage a team or to lead a team. Like I said, even though you're independent, nobody's like, your boss is not on the job with you, like you're on your own essentially, but not even being flight lead, but you being able to take charge of situation, you being able to help your team members out, and knowing that if somebody falls short, you can actually rise up to the occasion if it calls for it. A typical example, and the reason why I say this is because I worked, when I first started, I think I was in my second month or so, or my first month, I can't remember, but I was very new, like it was a very, very new stage. And I worked this rotation where the trip, I think I was on reserve and I got called for the trip, honestly, but it was me, the flight lead, and a new hire. That was literally her first trip. And somebody who had been flying for some years, I think it was over 5 years, if not 6 or 7 years, right? And there was a baggage situation where, because I did not know that the third person was new. This was her first trip. I didn't know that, right? So I think by the time she said it, I wasn't around, so I didn't know. But the others knew, or the person I don't know. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that there was a baggage situation where we run out of space. So I was up front because I was assisting the lead, which was up front at the door where we're boarding at. And the norm, passengers are making their way to the seats. So then we noticed that things were slowing down, but we didn't understand what was going on. And the communication between the front and the back was between the veteran flight attendant and the flight lead, right? So I did not really know what was happening, but whenever the flight lead would get off the phone, it didn't seem like they had enough information to know that, oh, okay, the bins are full. That's why this and this is happening. It's possible that the person in the back did not also know either, because the middle flight attendant, which was working the aisle, was probably stuck in the middle, not being able to communicate the situation because the aisles were full. But all I remember was that what I did was I had to take charge of the situation, because she was not able to handle it in the moment because she was new. It was literally her first flight. Her first flight. And the person that could have helped or would have been the best position to help was hidden in the back somewhere doing whatever it is that they wanted to do, not wanting to get involved. So, but then I didn't know that. So then I make my way. I literally had to say excuse me to everybody in the aisle. Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And I'm almost to the back of the aircraft in between passengers. So then I get there. So I didn't even know that the galley in the back was full. So if you've been on an aircraft, or if you do become a flight attendant, this story would make more sense to you because there'll be more context. But the back of the aircraft, where the galley is, where the restroom is, or whatever. So then I make myself my way through the aisle. So when I get there, I'm trying to tell people, so then they're telling me there's no space for the bins are full or whatever. There's some sort of communication you're supposed to send during moments like this or when we're boarding, but the person was new, and I think when they sent it, they did send it, but the gate agent did not help either. But that's a whole story. But the whole point of this story is that once I got there, I had to take charge of the situation. I didn't go trying to figure out, why didn't you do this? Why you should have done this? Why didn't you do this? You should have done this. Why did you do this? So I literally had to tell people, you go back here, you stand here, and bear in mind, this is a one aisle aircraft. So this is not like a bigger airplane where we have bigger space. This is just a 7-3. So the aisles are full with human beings with luggage. Where are they going to go? So the galley had people there too. So I had to try and squeeze people out of the way just to get the people that had to sit down without luggages to sit down. So I had to separate people. So you stand here, you move here, you stand in between these seats, put your luggage on this seat, give him way to go to the back. And essentially, once I was done playing chess in that moment, or checkers in that moment, I was able to get everybody to sit down. And I finally brought everybody that had their luggage from the back to the front. I did not want to take anybody's luggage because, first of all, there were too many people. So I can't, it would get messed up. And at the end of the day, I don't want to, because I've had situations whereby somebody claimed that a flight attendant stole their bag because they took it to just go check it in for them because the bins were full or whatever. So I've had that happen. I've heard that story also. So I don't engage with people's luggage. Like, you packed it, you're responsible for it. So then moving everybody around, getting people to put their, it was so embarrassing, y'all. I was like, this is not the Delta difference. Like, this is not, it was so embarrassing. I was so embarrassed, but in that moment, I literally just blacked out. My focus was to just get everybody to sit down, get the backs of the aircraft to the bottom so we can just go. Because, mind you, we got delayed 30 minutes because of that. So I went back there and did all that. And to my knowledge, or what I observed, was that the fourth flight attendant that was in the back that had been doing this for more than 5 years, me doing this for 2 months or whatever, did nothing to help. All they did was to stand back there and literally tell me that she had no room back there for anybody else to go there, rather than coming out to say, oh, get this person to stand here, maybe you can do this, maybe you should do this. None of that was done. But then I didn't rely on her assistance either. I had to take charge and make things happen. So I would definitely look for leadership potential, somebody who's able to assume responsibility for things and not only play blame game, or that kind of skills as well. I would definitely look for something like that. And one way by which you can communicate that is based on the experience that you do share, like your work experience. Like for me, if I was being interviewed, some of the things that I would share to let you know that, hey, I have leadership potential, would be me sharing an example or a moment where I work with a team member, where the team member had an issue with the client or whatever. I popped in, because I used to work at the bank as well. I popped in, resolve the issue, help the team member do all of that. Like, it's one of those things, because everybody shies away from conflict. A lot of people shy away from conflict. Some people don't, because they do want to engage and just banter words or whatever, but most people shy away from conflict because nobody wants to deal with an angry person or a rude person or whatever. So if you're able to communicate moments in your work or your professional work life where you dealt with moments like that, that's a good way to leverage your skills and experience as well. So I'll definitely look for something like that. The other thing, what else would I look for? This is a good question, I think. This is a really good question. I've never been asked that question before. The other thing I would look for in a candidate is their communication skills. One thing I noticed even before I got on the line was when I was in training, you could tell that there were a lot of people that lacked good communication skills, that they weren't even confident to talk in front of people or to communicate with their peers or whatever. And I would definitely look for that skill as well, because I feel it plays a huge role, because how you communicate with a customer makes a huge difference. So if you want to do A and I tell you, hey, I'm sorry, I know you want to do it, I know it's important to you, but unfortunately we're not allowed to do it. I'm telling you no, but I'm not being rude and disrespectful about it, right? I'm telling you what the rules are, but I'm being more sympathetic or empathetic. Regardless, you get what I'm saying with you. But there are people that want to lord power over people, and it shows in their communication with customers or clients, and it literally escalates situations for no reason. And that's the issue right there. It causes things to get out of hand for no reason, and that sometimes causes issues when there shouldn't have been an issue in the first place. So I'll definitely look for communication skills. And sometimes people lack confidence because you're going to be briefing passengers. You're going to be talking to people. You're going to be, when you're doing that exit briefing, like you're talking to a group of people who are staring at you like this. So you need to be confident to communicate. So I'll definitely look for that as well. I'll think of more. But in the meantime, let's go back to the comments. Shalonda says, I think it would take a lot of finessing, but I believe I can do it. You got it. Osi Williams says, if I get base in my state of residence, heck yeah, I'm shooting for 70,000. I'm 21 with no kids, so I think this is perfect time to pick up as much as work as possible. That is true, but if you are starting off, unless you've been a flight attendant before who's been flying a lot in a day, because when you are a flight attendant, you would be flying 4 flights, depending on the base you're at, you'll be doing 4 flights, 3 flights a day. And sometimes that's more than what you've done in your lifetime, if not the last few years. So keep that in mind. Your body needs to adapt. So it's possible, but it will take a lot from you as well. Because somebody who's been in the industry for 12 years at my base, at my airline, makes double what I make as a flight attendant. More than double, on a trip. So both of us can do the same trip, right? But they would make more than double what I would make on the same trip. So keep that in mind. More than double. So sometimes the years you've put in gives you a boost as well. Because definitely 70K would be my goal for the year. You all are all about the money. It's all about the money. I see the one and only SK says, oh, see, it depends on where you're based as well. as a couple of more underlining factors, but being that my base is one of the most junior bases, and when people get out of training, they want to get straight to work, it has been pretty easy lately to drop and swap trips. Exactly. That also helps with your work-life balance and your experience on the job as a whole, because with the way this job works, it can be really good and it can be really bad. So you do want to make 70,000, you do want to make 65,000, but you also have to make sure that you're enjoying the work you're doing. Because I've worked with people that are so frustrated, so stressed out because they're flying so much just to make ends meet, and then it ends up impacting the quality of the job for them. So keep that in mind as well. It makes a huge difference. Joy Bay says this. Oh, the one and only SK, you're in Detroit, right? You said you're in Detroit. Let me know. If that's the case, then it means that's pretty good. Or you're in New York. Let me know. Joy Bay says this was such a genuine and wonderful video. Thank you for this positive platform and feedback. I appreciate the time you put into these informative videos. Thank you so much for enjoying it. Share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Ozzy Williams says, advice for the interview: be confident, but also try not to look as if you're trying too hard. My best strength, I thought, was being calm and collected and taking a second to think before speaking. Exactly. Do not rush. Take your time, take it easy, and just go with the flow, y'all. Like, don't do too much. Don't be out here doing the most, and don't try too hard. I completely agree. Completely off topic. Your plant is growing so nicely. No, it is not a life plant. It just looks so beautiful. I need to get a life plant. I think it would die. I need to get a life plant. Something more natural, that might help. But thank you though. Thank you. But yes, any final thoughts before I move on? Once again, if you're just joining the live, y'all, we're talking about new flight attendants being able to make 65,000, 75,000 their first year, if it's possible or not, what the underlying factors might be that might make it impossible or even possible at all. So if you're just joining, just rewind, go to the beginning, and then you get all the gist as well. At this point, I'm just taking questions. If you have any questions about the job, about making money, base selection, interview process, or whatever, just let me know. Is it Antoine? I hope I got your name correct. I have my virtual interview coming up. What advice would you give? So, virtual interview. First of all, once again, I do have a whole playlist on how to become a flight attendant where I share everything you need to know. Specifically, the video where I talk about how to get your CJO. It's on my channel right now. But my advice, who even said this? It was Ozzy Williams. Yes. Is that be confident and trust in your abilities, and like he added, which I really like, is take your time with the process. Don't be quick to respond to things. Try as much as possible to think through your responses to questions or any situation you find yourself, okay? And be genuine and be happy. During breakout sessions, when you're interacting with people, interact with people. Ask thoughtful questions. Don't just stand around and just wander because waiting for somebody to come talk to you. Take the initiative to talk to other people. Be confident. Don't try too hard. Don't try to be all over the place, because then it becomes annoying. Because when you're on the job, it's not about you. It's about you and your crew. So keep that in mind. Be confident and be a team player as well. Be able to work with other people, because they're going to test you in different ways or in different facets during the interview, the whole event day. And just be genuine. Honestly, if it's for you, it's for you. I know there were people that tried 10 years in, 5 years in. So timing might be a factor or whatever, but just keep that in mind. You'll do great. Just believe in yourself. And like I said, or when you do watch that video that I'm talking about, use the STAR method. You don't have to have a lot of work experience, but the few that you do have, use the STAR method to break those down and just have them not memorize verbatim, because then you become like a robot, but know that experience that you had so much, what you took out of it, what happened, and all that information. Know it well enough such that it just rolls out naturally for you when you're sharing it, depending on which question you get asked. And for me, one thing I did also was that I tried to give examples when I was asked questions. So let's say I get asked a question like, what questions do they even usually ask? Like, share a situation or a moment where you had to deal with a colleague in a difficult situation. I don't know, questions similar to that. And like in that moment, I won't say what I would do, but I would talk about an incident that happened and what I did. So make it more real by saying what you did than what you will do. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, that should help too. And the STAR method definitely works. So it's a must. The STAR method is if that's a question, it's not absolutely a must, but know yourself. For me, I know when I start talking about situations, I get so excited or intrigued that I talk a lot. So I tend to go off a lot. But the STAR method allows me to keep my answers or my responses concise, more structured, and straight to the point. That's the reason. O.C. Williams says, I think you missed my question about dropping shifts. Oh, yes. Let me go back and see. Were you talking about being able to drop shifts if it's possible or not? Let me know. I think I missed it. Let me know your question again. What was the question, Williams? Was it about your ability to drop it if it's possible or not, or if it's easier to do it or not? So just let me know real quickly. And Antoine says yes. Antoine says low, thanks for not butchering it. Is the STAR method an absolute must? Like I said, it just helps me give concise, straight to the point, and structured responses. That's the reason. So I like it because it allows you to add flesh and paint out a story in a more structured way that doesn't come off like you're getting off topic or you're getting distracted in any way. The one and only SK is based in Detroit. That's good. I'm glad a lot of people are going to Detroit. That would help you a lot because it would also boost your seniority too. So that's great. I'm glad swapping and dropping is becoming easier for you too. That's really good. Yeah, so Williams, let me know again with regards to dropping trips. With regards to trips, if I'm not sure if I'm answering your question correctly, but it's one of those things where like the one and only SK shared earlier, because they are at a base where a lot of junior people are coming, their seniority is getting boosted, so they're potentially able to hold trips that people might want. So then if they should post their trip or put it up for pickup or drop or whatever, somebody's likely to pick it up. Also, the more people you have, the more chances of somebody picking up your trip. And that's what makes New York really nice, or even sometimes Atlanta good, is because they have a larger pool of flight attendants. I think New York is over 5,000 now, if not more, correct me if I'm wrong. But because they have such a large pool, you have more people to swap, and you have more people who are willing to pick up trips from you as well. So that makes a huge difference. That really helps. So C. Williams asks, how high is there a chance that people will pick up shifts I drop? Is it very common? Yes, it's very, very common. It's very common. It depends on what you're literally selling at this point, because I know some people also bid for like really good trips, like trips they know people want, and that comes with you talking to veteran flight attendants, you talking to people, figuring out at your base what are the trips that people like. Like at my base, people like Hawaii's, like Honolulu, Kona, Maui, Lahaina. They like Hawaii. And then people also like high credit trips because it's more buck for their time. People also like international trips like TOs to Europe, Asia, and stuff like that. So you know that if you do put trips like that out, chance of somebody picking it up is very easy. So it is a common thing. Like it's literally one of the things that people bank on to clear their schedule. So it's a thing. It's very normal and it happens frequently. But then it's also dependent on your base as well. Like was it the one and only SK that shared that they were at Detroit, and then because new flight attendants are coming into that base, it's making it easier for them to swap and drop as well, because they have new flight attendants that are willing to work as well, who are willing to pick up more trips, or they can hold the one and only SK can hold good trips, or the trips that they know that people want. So then people are able to pick it up from them. So it's definitely very normal. Like for me, I believe this month I had a turn. I was assigned a turn right when schedules were released, and it was a pretty good turn. It was about 8 hours, but it was a day turn, and it was just a few hours, and the report time was like 11 in the morning, so it's not super early and it's not super late, just a sweet spot. And the release time was a good time too, so somebody picked it up right away. I posted it within minutes, it was gone. So it depends on what you're posting or what you're giving out. But honestly, when you're new, if you're not able to hold the good stuff, just try as much as possible to get or to bid or to ask for trips that give you high credit. That way, at least you're making good money. You know, you might not get the best layovers, but at least you're making good money to pay for your bills, you know? So keep that in mind. That was my goal. I just wanted to earn enough to pay my bills, to save or whatever, to be comfortable. That was it when I started, because I knew I did not want to work too much, because I wanted to ease myself into the job. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Yes, I hope that answers your questions, OC Williams. Shalonda says, without the STAR method, I would be like, what was the question again? And honestly, don't rush to answer the questions. Take your time. Definitely take your time when you're answering the questions. Take your time. Don't rush. Like, take a breather and ask the interviewer questions too. Make it like conversational. At least with me, maybe because the person that interviewed me gelled with me or connected with me, because I was asking honest questions. I was like, hey, how long have you been flying? Were you commuting? How was it commuting? How long did it take you to move to the base that you wanted? How did you apply? Did you have to apply? Like, even though they were asking me questions and I was answering them, in between them taking notes or doing whatever they were doing, I was asking them questions too. So it became more conversational, because I also wanted to communicate that I really want to understand what this job entails, what the reality is, and if I can do it. So don't come off like desperate, not sure if you can do the job or not, but ask the questions such that it shows that you have genuine interest. You really want to know what the true tea is. And that's what I did. I asked them how long they were based, where they were based, how long they had been flying, if they liked it, what did they even do before they became flight attendants, you know, questions like that, you know. You got it. Antoine says, what would the first month look like trip wise for new flight attendants? So I'm just gonna say this, and I think there's a last question, y'all. Gotta go. I have a trip tomorrow, okay, with a report time of 5 a.m. I have a trip tomorrow. But for new flight attendants, I know for your first month, depending on when you're graduating, it depends. Because for me, I graduated on the 21st of April 2023, and I had 4 days to move and to figure out whatever it is that I wanted to do, 4 moving days or whatever, and then to get yourself together, go back home or go to base or whatever. And then I was on reserve right afterwards. So when I started literally was towards the end of April, so my full month was May. I didn't bid for that month because I was still in training. By the time it was time for us to bid for our schedules, I was still in training. I was a flight attendant trainee. I wasn't a flight attendant yet, so I couldn't bid for my first month. But I'm assuming factors will be different, especially if you're graduating. I think the way it's built, I think even with your first month, you might not be able to bid, regardless of whether you're starting before we're able to bid for schedules or not. I don't know, but regardless, I wasn't able to bid for my first month. So whatever I got in my first month was the system just assigning me anything at all. And during that month, I did not pick up any extra trips at all. I worked whatever I was given. And one thing to note is that with this industry, you're not scheduled a typical 160 hours a month like a typical 9-to-5 job is. So keep that in mind. Whatever trips you get, whatever hours you get scheduled in a month is based on the schedule value for that month, which is influenced by business needs. So it depends. If that month the schedule value is plus or minus 70 hours, then it means the maximum you can be scheduled for is 77 hours. The minimum you can be scheduled for is 63 hours. And that's 63 hours, so you can be scheduled for between 63 to 77 hours. That's what that means. So regardless of how much work is out there, all you're getting is the schedule, close to the schedule value, or anything in between that range. So that's what that's based on. And honestly, it's not the number of trips you do all the time, but it's also the value of the trips you do. Because I know somebody that I spoke to that their first month, aside from what they got assigned, they picked up so many trips that they only had 1 day off every week for the first month when they got on the line. I didn't have to do that because the credit value of the trips at my base were good enough. So keep that in mind. You can be scheduled just 3 trips, but you can always pick up more trips once you're on the line and you're a flight attendant, so you have the ability to pick up trips. But be careful to not pick up too much because you can overwork yourself. So sometimes it's not necessarily the number of trips you're working, but it's the value of the trips you're working that makes a huge difference too. All right, so O.C. Williams says, good luck on your trip tomorrow. Yes, I have a 2-day trip tomorrow, and report time is at 5 a.m., y'all. But I'll be back. It's a 2-day, so I'm going to be back tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, like in the morning, like around 10 or 11. I think, yeah, 11. It's like 10:59 a.m. So I leave early tomorrow morning, and I return the day after tomorrow in the morning as well. And I'm working just 3 flights. Yes, 2 tomorrow, 1 the day that I come back. So yeah. Whew. All right, thank you, Priscilla, for all your wisdom and time. You are all welcome. Thank you for showing up. As you make your way out, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share the content. And I will try and make these lives as frequent as possible because I feel it's a good way for people to just ask questions and get a response right away. But if you do have any question that wasn't answered or missed, just drop it in the comment section as well. Thank you all for showing up and commenting and just sharing your thoughts and feedback and knowledge that you have as well. So I will see you all in my next one. Like I said, I'll try and make it as frequent as possible. So bye-bye.